Thank you very much, Chair of this morning's proceedings. His Excellency Fernando Schmidt, Ambassador of the Republic of Chile, a very special welcome to the University of Trinidad and Tobago, and in particular, the Omira campus. Senior Vice President and Provost, Dr. Fazal Ali, members of the UTT family, very special welcome, other specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Board of Governors, staff and students of UTT family, I want to offer a special welcome to you, Ambassador. We sincerely hope that this signal event, simple as it may look and be perceived, that it will mark the start of a very productive and synergistic relationship, not only between your embassy, your physical embassy, and UTT, but a much broader one between the people of Chile and Trinidad and Tobago, and one which will continue to flourish and redound to the mutual benefit of all our people. Colleagues, when His Excellency first broached the idea of this donation, in inverted commas, to UTT, I had absolutely no hesitation in accepting it, for I saw this symbolic handing over to be in sync with the mission and vision of UTT. And it should be noted that one of the first academies to be established at UTT was the Academy of Arts, Letters, and Public Affairs. And this was followed, of course, by the Academy of the Performing Arts. So although it was conceived essentially as an science and engineering institution, we recognized the importance of the performing arts, letters, and public affairs. On November the 27th, 1895, Alfred Nobel signed his last will and testament, giving the largest share of his fortune to a series of prizes, of course, which is now well known, the Nobel Prizes. And one of these was to be dedicated, and I quote, to the person who shall have produced in the field of literature the most outstanding work in an ideal direction, end of quote. Gabriela Mistral was the first Spanish-American author to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature for her lyric poetry, which, inspired by powerful emotions, has, and I quote here, has made her name a symbol of the idealistic aspirations of the entire Latin American world, and indeed, I would say, the entire world. And for this, she continues to be seen as a representative figure in the cultural history, not only of the Latin American continent, again, but the entire world. She was one of the best-known Latin American poets of her time, and she embodied, as much as in her works, the cultural values and traditions of a continent that had not been recognized until then with the most prestigious international prize. Central themes, as we have heard from the Provost in her poems, are love, betrayal, a mother's love, and nature. When Mistral received this distinction, she was the 5th woman in history of the prize to have been awarded. To date, we have 14 women who have been awarded Nobel Prizes in literature. And currently, she's only one of 11 persons writing in Spanish to be honored by such, and that is a signal achievement. In fact, Chileans call their own country País de Poetas, country of poets. And of course, the most famous of these was Pablo Neruda, right? And he received his Nobel Prize in 1971. As a dedicated educator and engaged and committed intellectual, Gabriela Mistral defended the rights of children, women, and the poor, the freedoms of democracy, and the need for peace in times of social, political, and ideological conflicts. And these are all fundamental topics that are engulfing the entire world today. We just have to look around what is happening in the Middle East, what is happening in Afghanistan, in Belgium, in France, etc., all over the world, the message that she proclaimed way back in 1945 is still engulfing the world today. And we all say, when will it end? She was also engaged in social politics and made great efforts for education in Latin America. As a university and a national university, we are particularly inspired by these efforts, Ambassador, as we see education as the means to economic, social, and cultural development. We see it as a form of liberation. And education, as I've always said, is the foundation of an innovative society. We in the Caribbean have also produced 4 Nobel laureates over the last 55 years, and 3 of these were in literature. I'm sure we all know of those 3. The first was in 1960, St. John Percy from Guadeloupe. He was a poet and diplomat. Then Derek Walcott, of course, in 1992, Vidya Naipaul in 2001, and we also had a 4th one, of course, Sir Arthur Lewis in economics in 1979. Yes. And this is something which I think emanates from what the poem that you read, Provost. In fact, I had this as my closing, statement, so I will be much shorter. The famous 19th century French critic, Sainte-Beuve, believed that to understand a writer, it was necessary to know as much as possible about the exterior man. And I use man in a generic sense here, right? The details of his life, using the man to illuminate his works. However, and this is what I believe in, Proust has a diametrically different view. And Proust writes that a book is the product of a different self from the self we manifest in our habits, in our social life, in our vices. If we would try to understand that particular self, it is by searching our own bosoms and trying to reconstruct it there that we may arrive at what we write. I think those are very, very powerful words. It's not the exterior and what we see, but what comes from inside that is reflected in what we write. In fact, Proust further writes, a literary work is the secretions of one's innermost self, written in solitude and for oneself alone, that one gives to the public. And I'd like to repeat that. Proust, and his quote, a literary work, as we see exhibited here, is the secretions of one's innermost self, written in solitude and for oneself alone, that one gives to the public, and I would say to the world at large. So those words of Proust should be with us whenever we are reading the biography of a writer such as Gabriela, or the biography of anyone who depends on what can be called inspiration. All the details of the life and the quirks and the friendships can be laid out for us, but the mystery of writing will remain. No amount of documentation, however fascinating, can take us there. The biography of a writer, or even the autobiography, will always have this incompleteness when we are writing an autobiography. In closing, I would like to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency for his decision to partner with UTT for this informative exhibition here, which we call it a traveling exhibition, and it will be moved across all the campuses, including Tobago, right? And if there are public functions, etc., which are relevant, we would also be taking this thing. So again, we want to thank you, Ambassador, for this initiative. And we are very proud to join with the Chilean Embassy in bringing its rich culture to the fore in Trinidad and Tobago. And we look forward to future meaningful interactions that can benefit our respective nations. In fact, I had some informal discussions with him a few moments ago, and he is willing to cooperate with us, and that's why I've invited our colleagues from the Maritime Institute, because they have a strong maritime training institute. And in fact, members of the Coast Guard were actually visiting Chile a while ago and they were impressed with some of the techniques that they were using there in the training of their Coast Guard, and they want to impart this sort of thing to our Coast Guards here. So we see this as a start, simple as it is, of very meaningful collaboration, not only with Chile, but with the whole of Latin America. I have said it repeatedly that the future of the Caribbean is with our relationships with Latin America and not necessarily with the two continents. I want to thank you very much, Ambassador, for all that you have done, and we look forward to a very meaningful cooperation in the future. Thank you.